Many leaders carry a lot more tension than they realize. When you operate under pressure for a long time, tension can become your baseline and it starts to feel normal. You might only recognize it once it begins to affect your sleep, your energy, your health, and learning to notice this tension earlier gives you the chance to respond before it affects your clarity, your recovery, and your performance. You can't release tension that you don't recognize. So in this video, we're going to be looking at what are the signs and symptoms that you can look out for. So why do leaders miss this? Leaders are trained to focus outwards. You're trained to look at the problem, the team, the decision, the next step. So you're not necessarily tuning in to see how you're feeling and if you're feeling under tension. So I'll give myself as an example. In the ER, when I'm working, if an ambulance comes in and there's a very sick patient, well, I don't have time to look at how I'm doing and ask myself, am I hungry? Do I need a snack? Do I need to drink water? Do I need to pee? Right? I have to jump on the solution, on the problem, inspire my team, mobilize resources, communicate effectively, and get the problem solved as quickly as possible. So because leadership requires us to focus outwardly, well, when in situations like these, we temporarily override the signals that our body is giving us so that we can stay in balance. And that's not a problem. It's necessary in leadership. But the problem this becomes a problem when overriding these signals becomes your default way of operating. If it follows you home, if you don't listen to the feedback that your body is giving you for a long time, it will eventually cause imbalance in your body. So how is this affecting us, and when does it become a problem? Because you can actually override the signals from your body for a very, very long time and still function at a very high level. You can still perform very well, but just because you're performing very well, it doesn't mean that you're staying in balance or that the performance is sustainable. So the body can adapt, but there's a limit to this adaptation. So we want to be mindful of how we're doing this. High performers are also especially good at hiding declining capacity, right? When we're tired, when we're not feeling our best, we're pretty good at not showing that. And I have a lot of leaders tell me, Roxanne, honestly, I don't feel stressed. Well, this is not because they are not under tension or pressure, but it's because they have numbed the feeling. They're not feeling it anymore. So there's a difference between overriding a signal in an emergency situation or a crisis you have to resolve versus numbing and never feeling it anymore. When someone has when someone has overridden this feeling so many times, there can be a numbness that comes about, right? So constant overriding can become numbness. And that's definitely not ideal, because let's say that you are, let's take an example of someone touching a stove. If you touch a stove, a very hot stove, and you pull your hand away because there's a reflex, your nerves in your brain, in your fingers are going up to your brain and signaling you are creating damage, you're burning your skin. Remove your hand right away. So you can override that sensation, but if you don't take your hand away and react, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to cause damage to your body. So we don't want to override these signals so often that the damage is done to our body. Not feeling the signal doesn't mean that your body is unaffected. So what are some signs of tension? This can be physical, mental. So I'm going to name a couple of the most common signs in your body. The most common places would be the jaw, the face, especially the forehead and around the eyes, your neck, your shoulders, especially the trapezius muscle right here, your chest and your back. So one really, really good way to look at to gauge if you're a little bit under too much tension is to take a breath during the day. Take a deep breath and notice if you're able to take a deep breath in a relaxed way, or if the breath is shallow and a little bit restricted. If that's the case, then you're probably carrying a little bit more tension than you need to. And that's not a problem, because in the next video, we're gonna be doing a little tension release routine where you'll immediately see the difference and how to release your tension. Other signs could include headaches, digestive problems. This is super common, like reflux is a very common one, for example. Heart palpitations, muscle tensions, aches and pains that appear, out of nowhere. These are all signs that you could be under a little bit too much tension, that your body's having a little bit of trouble handling at the moment. On the mental and emotional side, you could be feeling irritable, having a short fuse. You might be having difficulty concentrating, even though your mind is very active. And emotionally, there's either that emotional numbness where leaders just, they restrict, they have a lot of emotional restraint. So even when chaos is underway, they seem very calm, but when something wonderful happens, they have trouble feeling joy or excitement. So that emotional restraint, that can be even numbness when it's too restrained, or these outbursts of excessive emotions like anger or frustration. That can be a sign that you're a little bit under too much tension. This excess energy and emotions are coming out in ways you're having difficulty control. Or perhaps that you would rather have a little bit more control on. One sign that is also seen is the mind that keeps solving problems, even though the demand has stopped. Your system is still operating as if you have to solve a problem. One of my clients calls this his monkey mind, where even though he's out of the office, he's maybe having dinner with his family, but the monkey mind is just always present. It'll wake him up at night. So if you're having difficulty, shut your mind off after your day is done. That's a sign that you're likely under too much tension. And then one of the first things that is affected in terms of health is the sleep and the recovery. So if you're having troubles falling asleep, if you're having nighttime awakenings, like you're waking up at 3 a.m. and thinking a lot, if you're not feeling rejuvenated in the morning, you have groggy mornings, you're feeling tired in your body but too wired in your mind to get rest, that's another sign. Longer recovery after travel, exercise, or demanding periods, same input but less output than you used to have. All signs that you could be, you could have tension that could be released from your body. So why does this awareness matter? Well, tension is information and not something to be feared. The goal is not to obsess over all the signs and symptoms you might notice, but the earlier you can notice it and catch it, well, the less momentum this imbalance has, and the easier it's going to be to course correct, right? You're going to need less time, energy, focus to tend to a smaller problem than a bigger problem. So awareness gives you more choice before your tension becomes a problem in your health, in your relationships, in your performance. So it gives you more control and more choice. So you may very well be functioning under a lot of tension, and possibly a lot more than you realize, because we are very good at overriding these signals as leaders. But once you learn how to recognize these earlier signs, you're going to have an opportunity to release this tension and allow yourself to have better recovery, rebalance earlier, have better mental clarity. This is going to save you so much time, energy, effort, and it's going to allow you to perform at a high level without having to constantly override these signals that are helping you stay in balance in your body. If you would like to follow along for the rest of this series, I have a free PDF guide. You can download it. It's in the section in the description below. And in the next video, we'll be doing a practical tension release routine. So you're going to know exactly what to do when you sense this tension in your body to release it at least a little bit in a matter of minutes. And you can do this anytime, anywhere. So I'll see you in the next video.